heart of West Africa, where dense forests, open to rivers that ran toward the sea, stood one of the most remarkable civilizations of the 15th century, the Kingdom of Benin. Its capital, Benin City, was already famed for its moats, walls, and artistry. Yet it was in the reign of one man, Oba Ewuare, that this kingdom became an empire. Known as Ewuare the Great, he was remembered not only as a warrior king, but also as a master strategist, reformer, builder, and visionary whose legacy shaped Benin for centuries. To understand his story, one must first understand the world he inherited. The turbulent beginning. The royal dynasty of Benin had existed for centuries before Ewuare's rise, but its throne was often a seat of conflict. The Oba, or king, ruled through sacred authority, yet political intrigue frequently threatened the monarchy. By the early 1400s, Benin had already established itself as a major power, with trade routes stretching toward the Niger River in the north and the Atlantic coast in the south. The kingdom's brass casters and ivory carvers created works that would one day astonish Europe. Still, palace rivalries and unstable leadership weakened its foundation. Into this uncertain world was born Prince Ogun, later known as Ewuare. His early life was marked by exile and struggle. Accounts from oral history tell that he was denied the throne when his brother was chosen instead. This rejection set him on a path of wandering, survival, and learning. He roamed through forests and distant lands, gathering knowledge of medicine, warfare, and governance. These years forged him into a leader with sharp instincts, a strategist who understood not only the power of armies, but also the power of ideas and rituals. By the time fate turned in his favor, Ogun had become more than a prince. He had become a man destined to reshape an empire, the rise of a warrior king. When Ogun returned to Benin to claim his birthright, he was no longer the exiled prince. With charisma and a loyal following, he overcame his rivals, seized the throne, and took the regnal name Ewuare, meaning, "The trouble has ceased." The irony was deliberate. His reign began with conflict but promised order. As Oba, Ewuare faced the challenge of stabilizing a kingdom plagued by infighting. His solution was ruthless but effective. He consolidated power, subdued rebellious chiefs, and reorganized the administration, so that loyalty flowed directly to the throne. Those who resisted felt the iron weight of his authority. Those who supported him flourished under his patronage. But Ewuare's ambition reached far beyond stability. He envisioned Benin not as a kingdom hemmed in by its borders, but as an empire commanding respect across West Africa. Conquests and expansion. Oba Ewuare was a warrior king in the truest sense. He personally led campaigns that expanded Benin's territory in all directions. To the west, he pushed into Yoruba lands. To the east, his forces secured control over vital trade routes linking Benin to the Niger. To the south, he sought dominance over the coastal regions, which were beginning to attract the first stirrings of European trade. His campaigns were not reckless raids. They were calculated moves designed to secure wealth, tribute, and power. Captives taken in war were integrated into Benin's society, strengthening the labor force and army. Vassal states were bound to the empire through tribute and loyalty oaths, ensuring the Oba's authority spread across hundreds of miles. It was under Ewuare's leadership that Benin truly became an empire, a regional superpower that no neighbor could ignore. Legacy of Ewuare the Great. By the time of his death, in the late 15th century, Oba Ewuare had transformed Benin from a kingdom into an empire, from a city into a capital, from a throne contested by rivals into a sacred institution revered for centuries. His successors inherited not just land and walls, but a system of governance, ritual, and culture that endured for generations. The moats and walls he built still amaze archaeologists. The palace system he established became the center of one of Africa's greatest art traditions. The political centralization he forged allowed Benin to remain powerful well into the era of European contact, resisting colonization for centuries. To his people, he was remembered as Ewuare the Great, a ruler who rose from exile to empire, from wandering prince to warrior king. His reign was the foundation on which the grandeur of Benin rested. Why his story matters today. The story of Oba Ewuare is not simply the tale of one man's rise to power. It is a reminder of Africa's sophisticated civilizations before the colonial era, while Europe was only beginning its voyages of discovery. Rulers like Ewuare had already built states with complex administration, monumental architecture, global trade networks, and extraordinary art. Too often, African history is framed through the lens of colonization. But Ewuare's life reminds us that centuries before that encounter, African rulers were shaping their destinies with vision, ambition, and brilliance. His legacy belongs not only to Benin or Nigeria, but to the shared heritage of humanity. Urban planning and social order. One of Oba Ewuare's overlooked but remarkable achievements was his vision for urban planning. Benin City was not left to grow chaotically. He deliberately shaped it into a model of order. Streets were laid out with remarkable symmetry, radiating from the palace complex like veins from a heart. Neighborhoods were organized by guilds and professions. Hunters in one quarter, brass casters in another, soldiers near the palace for protection. Markets were centralized, ensuring both economic vitality and royal oversight. This level of organization not only improved trade and security, but also reflected Ewuare's vision of the kingdom as a living body, each part working toward a common good. In this way, he left behind not just walls and monuments, but a functioning urban society that amazed early European visitors with its scale and sophistication. Diplomacy and legacy of authority. Though remembered as a warrior, Ewuare was equally skilled in diplomacy. He built networks of alliances with neighboring states through marriage, tribute, and ritual. By weaving together war and diplomacy, he created stability that endured long after his death. More importantly, he established the Oba as a semi-divine figure. Before him, kings were powerful, but under his reforms, the Oba became sacred, the living bridge between the people and the gods. This elevation of kingship guaranteed loyalty across generations and ensured that Benin's monarchy remained one of the most enduring institutions in African history. Long after his reign ended, later Obas invoked Ewuare's memory as proof of divine destiny, reminding subjects and rivals alike that their throne was sanctified by the greatest ruler Benin had ever known. Cultural identity and national pride. Perhaps the greatest gift Ewuare left his people was a sense of cultural identity that outlived his empire. Through his reforms of art, religion, and governance, he created a unified vision of what it meant to be part of Benin. Festivals like the Ig, associated with renewal and royal power, became cornerstones of community life. Guilds ensured that every citizen had a role to play in the prosperity of the state, while the palace arts preserved Benin's history in brass and ivory for generations to admire. By weaving culture into governance, Ewuare transformed loyalty into pride. His people did not just obey their king. They believed they were part of a civilization destined for greatness. That sense of belonging would carry Benin through wars, encounters with Europeans, and even the colonial onslaught centuries later. Imagine Benin City at the height of Ewuare's reigns. The sound of hammers in the brass casters' quarters, the chants of priests preparing festivals, the clang of weapons as soldiers drill in the courtyards, the endless walls stretching beyond the horizon. At the center, a king sits on his throne. Warrior, reformer, builder, priest. His eyes have seen exile, conquest, grief, and triumph. He is Oba Ewuare the Great. And through his vision, a kingdom became an empire, and a man became a legend.